Hey guys, today I wanted to speak about some pretty annoying issues going around in the comic book industry at the moment. As you can see, I'm pointing directly at Marvel comics at the moment. No Thor, Doctor Strange, Invincible Iron Man, Captain America, both books. He has two books at the moment, and the totally awesome Hulk. Now, the reason I'm talking about these books in particular is Doctor Strange, not so much. It's just there because it's one of the newer books, and his character has changed a bit, but otherwise he's still the same character. But the reason I'm talking about these in particular is the way they, because Marvel has this thing at the moment where they are changing all their core characters and with more diverse characters. Now, the reason I'm saying this is a problem is not because diversity is not a good thing in comics that keeps the stories fresh and stuff like that. The reason I'm talking about them is because of the political leanings that they have. Now, the average comic book reader, he doesn't give a shit about liberal or conservative values. He just wants to read a cool comic book. Now, if you push these issues in such a degree that they change the core character's gender or race or whatever, it's like, really? We don't care about that. We want Bruce Banner beating shit up, or we want Steve Rogers being Captain America. And when you have here, you have Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson he was the Falcon, and then he became Captain America. And that was a good story that was written by Rick Remender, where he Steve Rogers basically gave him the shield and said, "Okay, well, for now, you've been one of my oldest friends. You can take over the mantle of Captain America." Now, obviously, that angered a lot of people for obvious reasons. Captain America can't be a black guy. But anyway, I was fine with that because I thought it was a very well handled story. But with this new writer, Nick Spencer, Nick Spencer, he went a bit overboard with it, and he injected his own politics into the mess because he's basically trying to, no, not, I wouldn't say ruin the character, but he's trying to make Sam Wilson something more than he was. When Sam Wilson was a political figure, he was a mayor of a city for a while, dealing with street level crime and the ghettos in his like community and stuff like that. It was very important for the character, and it was okay because that was part of who he was. He was from those kinds of communities, and he was more a contemporary voice for Steve Rogers. Now, the reason that's important is because Captain America has always been out of touch with the modern day times, and he needed someone to ground him, and that was always interesting to read. The problem comes when the writer injects his own politics onto the character. Then you get just rubbish stories where they talk about politics all the time, and it's really not fun to read because you have to keep fucking keeping this shit in your head, and it's like, really, I just want to read a cool story of Captain America kicking some ass and taking out terrorists and stuff like that. That's basically what Captain America was. Now, the reason I bring that up is because Captain America, Steve Rogers, his own book has been great. It's actually been more the way you want it, and as you can see, both of them are Captain America at the moment, which is fine. You see Bucky in the background and Sharon Carter, Captain America's girlfriend, maybe wife, but not yet. But they should be married anyway. But anyway, the problem comes at the very end of this issue because it's a very cool issue. Just talking about everyday stuff, and then obviously I turned to the fucking page that I didn't want to. But anyway, this scene in particular is this is really egregious. It's basically it's drawing a false equivalent between the Red Skull and fucking Donald Trump, because he's taking conservative talking points and putting them over the Red Skull. and basically saying, well, you've been marginalized all the time, all that stuff, and then I'm here to change that, and hail Hydra and all that. But the thing I wanted to talk about was the last page of this book. Yeah, where Captain America says hail Hydra. Now this has been a very contentious thing in comic books, in the media for a long time. Ever since this comic came out about, a year ago. Now, turning the fact that I don't really mind it. I think it's a cool story going forward, but changing your core character and making him a Nazi seems like such a slap in the face of the creators of this character, who were both Jewish, and at the time they were writing comics to fight against, more in like a propaganda way, to fight against fascism and just that kind of bullshit. And then having this be the new story is, I don't know. It's very telling about the political leanings of the writer at the moment. But yeah, that's just one of the issues I have with Marvel at the moment. And Totally Awesome Hulk is also it's actually very well written. It's written by Greg Pak, who's been writing Hulk for a long time. Artwork is fantastic for the first few issues. And as you see, it's just normal fun comics, and they have this funny stupid thing where he's just had his fucking clothes blown off by fire, and it's just funny. And the artist Frank Cho, he doesn't really care about PC culture, being politically correct and all that stuff. So he draws Asian people Asian. He doesn't try to fucking homogenize them and make them look white or anything like that, which is what I really like. And Frank Cho is smart. And the thing I like about this first story is that they show why Bruce Banner isn't the Hulk anymore, and they show that he basically he gets depowered in an event, and that goes throughout the first 5 issues of the story. That's what I actually really liked about it. Now, the people have a problem with this because he's an Asian Hulk and he's not Bruce Banner and everything, but I wasn't really bothered by that, because Amadeus Cho's been around for at least 10 years. So he's basically been the Rick Jones of Steve Rogers, of Captain America. He's like the Rick Jones to the Hulk. So he's like this sidekick dude, but he became the Hulk. And that was fine. I actually enjoyed it. As a comic book, it's fine. Later on, the story gets a bit boring, so that's the only reason I didn't continue it. But then you have this. One of my favorite characters is Iron Man from Marvel Comics, and the fact of the matter is that they killed him off in Civil War 2 for just because they could, and just so that Bendis could write a new Iron Man. She's not even Iron Man. She's fucking Iron Girl. Iron Heart, she calls herself. She's basically this teenage girl. She's like 15. She's just as smart as Tony Stark, and she can control the suit and all that shit. And you have a stupid mutant villain here created by Brian Michael Bendis. The artwork is fine. I actually really like it, but I don't like the character because she seems like someone who can do anything, and that's a boring kind of character. When you have a character that can do anything and can think of anything and is smart enough to know everything except for like the human thing, because that's the only thing that's really different about her, is that she can't really relate to normal people because she's too smart or whatever. But anyway, you have her meeting like one of her first friends and anything like that. And I think later she gets killed. I think she gets killed in the first issue, yes, yeah. It's like a flashback to her best friend dying, and that's supposed to be her only character moment, right? And yes, that's sad. I feel sorry for her, but anyway, the problem comes when she can do anything about anything, really. I like this because Tony Stark is here. He's not actually dead, he's like in a coma state, but with this, it's like, okay, well, here's your Tony Stark, you know? It's like, what the fuck? We buy Invincible Iron Man for Tony Stark. We don't buy Invincible Iron Man just to see the suit. But anyway, a lot of people have voiced a concern about this character, and I can't really blame them. Especially there's this one channel called Diversity and Comics, and another one called Captain Cummings. Both of them have been really vocal about not liking this character because she's they wanted to be a villain or whatever, but to me it's like she's just a character that can do anything, and that makes for a boring character. I mean, if Tony Stark can't do everything, he's made tons of mistakes in his life, especially with technology and stuff like that. So that just and he's an alcoholic, so that just makes him more relatable. With her, she can do anything, and there's no problem or anything like that. And I think that's one of the big problems plaguing this character at the moment. I mean, yes, it's selling relatively well. It's selling about the same the normal Iron Man comics have been selling. So there's that. It's not better. It's not worse. It's exactly the same. So basically, changing the character, um, changing it from a rich white dude to a teenage black woman it was a moot point. It wasn't going to change sales at all. So they did it for no reason other than, oh, these people want it, let's do it. And then they did it, and then the guys who've been reading it forever have just dropped off the book. So it's kind of a useless thing to do. But anyway. Then you have female Thor. The reason I don't have a problem with this is because the story is well written and the artwork is fine and it has a thread going through it all the way till now. I'm still getting this comic, it's still very good. The problem a lot of people have is that one of the issues, she talks about feminism, and she doesn't talk about it, a guy talks about feminism and another woman talks about feminism and she beats the shit out of the guy. But that was the one mention of the comic, or one mention of feminism in the entire series, really. And it didn't really hurt the story for me because I only get it because of Thor, normal Thor, this Thor, who's unworthy at the moment. He can't pick up Mjolnir. And there's this whole long story about why he can't do it. I'm not going to spoil it for you here. If I do the comic book where he does get worthy and where he does learn why he can't pick it up, I'll do it on this channel as well. But basically, this comic is about figuring out who the new Thor is. This series only lasted 8 issues, and it dealt with who this new Thor is. Now I'm going to spoil it for you here because it's been known for a long time. It's Jane Foster. Jane Foster is obviously the doctor who Thor had a relationship with at one time. But now, later on, you find out that she has cancer. Now, the cancer is killing her, but when she picks up the hammer, she turns into like a version of Thor, which is what they call her, the female Thor or whatever. But then she can't, the chemotherapy doesn't work on her anymore. When she turns into Thor, it erases all the chemotherapy from her blood. And then when she goes back to human, she's just as sick as she was when she sat down for her chemotherapy. So basically, every time she becomes Thor, she becomes weaker as a normal person, which is a very interesting premise, in my opinion. That's why I really stuck with it, and I was really glad to see that the story didn't revolve around her being a woman. It was more about just the actions that were happening in the Thor mythos in Asgard and all of the Wall Tree worlds and stuff like that. Which is why I didn't have a problem with it, but I can understand why the average guy just going to buy a Thor book would be like, okay, well, why is she a woman now? I thought Thor was a man. What the hell? See, that was also the big problem that people had with this, and it's also quite jarring coming from the movies and seeing this, and it's like, okay, well, what is this? I want to read normal Thor. That's why I watched the movie. So you can understand why people would be annoyed with this. And personally, I think it's actually a very well written story. Jason Aaron has never let me down, really. He's always been a great writer. He wrote Wolverine for a long time. And he's also writing Doctor Strange. And Doctor Strange, I imagine most of you have watched the movie. The movie is quite great. I personally think it's okay. It's not really great, But I do like Benedict Cumberbatch, so it was quite cool. And Mads Mikkelsen, so they both of them were quite good in the movie. Now this is Jason Aaron as well. The reason this story is actually one of the more less diverse is because it draws from continuity, as you can see from these panels in the back, which is by Steve Ditko. Steve Ditko and I think Stan Lee, yeah, both of them created Doctor Strange. Now, what I like is you get this narration from Jason Aaron on top of what happened in the past, which is what I really like. It's like these are comics from the 1960s, just layering the back of the comic. That's very cool. And then you get the splash page of Doctor Strange in the new comic style. See, what I like about this is that he has his old costume here and his old way of doing things. And the whole thing about this comic is that it's about change and that things never really stay the same, and that magic actually has a cost. And that there's like a different world that you can see. It's like kind of like it's almost like the Matrix. Like if you have the magic, you can see all the shit around you, but if you don't, you can't see. So like he's like, some of these monsters like feed on people and give them nightmares and stuff, and he's like trying to help them. It's really quite interesting. I really like this comic. Now this is not one of the biggest comics with the diversity issue at the moment. It's more these other ones I've covered. This is quite solid in my opinion. I mean the biggest ones people always scream about is Thor, Captain America, and then female Iron Man. And also Amadeus Cho to an extent, but people don't really care about him. They want normal Hulk back, but he's fine for the moment. My biggest issue is with this one because I don't like the fact that Captain America is a Nazi now, which is kind of stupid to me. And that really comes to a head in the event called Secret Empire, which I will do as well. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about these comics for a bit and just give my take on the whole diversity thing, because in a few months they'll launch this new Marvel Legacy one-shot basically outlining how they're going to handle this whole diversity thing, I think. I don't know if they will. I think they'll just stay with what they have and write some better stories, because they are basically doing a new 52 thing where they want to just have 52 titles running at a time, and the great creators and stuff like that, which happened in DC's New 52 thing. But I'll have to wait and see. If that comes out, I'll talk about that. But really, to me, if the stories are great, fine. But if you keep pushing this this more progressive form of comic books, then I'm going to stick with DC, because at least if they do something like that, they'll do it right. Because this is just forcing things down people's throats. That's just what they feel. Right? So I'm more than happy to stick with DC. That's why I have a lot of Marvel comics. I do buy a lot. But I stick with DC mostly. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this video. Leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. And come back for more. Thanks, guys. Bye.